Okay, so let's start for this KWD Webranking 2012-2013 update. I'm very glad that so many have been able to join us for this. My name is Staffan Lindgren. I'm the Managing Director International for KWD and also one of the founders of the Webranking. I will guide you through this update, but a little bit before we start, the presentation will be made available on demand on our website after this presentation. It will probably take an hour or so to make it perfectly and edit out all sounds or whatever it is. And secondly, we have muted all participant audio because of the number of people that is listening in, and it would be a cluttered noise. If you have any questions to us, which we would like to have, as many as possible, of course, you can use the chat function, and I will try to answer the questions at the end of the presentation, or we will get in contact directly with you to discuss the questions that you have. Okay, let's start with one of the most important things about the Webranking year, and that's the key dates looking forward. First of all, the ranking has already commenced. We've started on June 1st for this year, and we've started looking at all of your websites. We will continue rank the websites until August 17. This is a slight change from before, where we have been not as precise in terms of dates where we would close the ranking. It's been mid-August said, and sometimes end of August, which means the last of August. This year we want to be very clear about the date, which is August 17. It's a Friday. And the reason for this is, of course, that we would like to have the time after to do the analysis and the presentations and all the data to be able to present the different lists. The next key date would be November 1st, which is the date where we start to release reports to pre-order clients, and that is when we start to release the data of your website and of the background research to specific clients. We will most likely start to publish lists earlier, which would be mid-October. It says October 15th, but somewhere mid-October we will start to publish local country lists in probably the smaller countries. The main list, which is the European list, is scheduled to be published at the same time as the KWD Webranking Forum, which again this year will be held in London on November 29th. It will be a full day with seminars and presentations, so we all hope that you will mark the day and save the date and come to London and join us for that. As you know, we also usually have events all around the world with different dates. Currently we haven't set the date for Milan, we haven't set the date for Stockholm or for the Middle East event yet, but we will of course share this information with you as soon as we set the dates. They're usually somewhere mid-November to end of mid-December. One news that we introduced this year was that we started to publish a Global 100 list, and we will do so this year as well in this edition. The list will be published end of January and will be consistent of the Global 100 companies by market cap. As you might know, we do a lot of background research before we start to look at your website. And before we go into the criteria and look into all of that, I'd like to share some of the data and the process that we all go through when we do the web ranking research. The year for us starts in January, where we do a lot of feedback surveys from the companies in a web manager survey. We also do interviews with experts in different fields in order to get the feedback on what's going on, what are the latest trends, what is happening, what is really important for you when you look at different types of companies and what do you think that they do well, and what would you like them to improve. We also do a career survey, which is targeted at the job seekers for different companies. I'd like to share with you some of the highlights from this research. Some of the research is also being presented in open research reports, which are published on our website and through social media, and some of them are part of the actual web ranking report. After we do these types of research, we create the criteria. We create the criteria based on the requirements from the different target groups, and we list the things that they think is important, and we also put the weight into those criteria based on the research that we've got. And during summer, as I presented to you before, we do the ranking of the actual websites. This year we start June 1st and we end August 17th. And then we present the data to the companies and to the through media in different ranking lists. If we start with the first survey that we have made this year, which is the Web Manager Survey of 2012, where we ask the web managers of the companies that are being surveyed and ranked in KWD Webranking, we have asked you what is important, what are your focus areas, what are your challenges, and how will you prioritize your work going forward during this year and next year. This year, we received answers from 17 countries and from 122 different companies. 62% of these companies are the FTSE 500 companies, but as you know, we do ranking of a lot of other companies as well, almost 1,000 companies. So we get responses not only from the largest companies, but also from slightly smaller mid-cap companies around Europe and Middle East. Some of the highlights from this is that 61% says that you will have the same or actually an increased budget for this year and going forward. The focus areas for improvement is the investor relations section and the corporate governance section. And this is quite interesting because we've seen quite a development of the demands from the target groups during the last couple of years in content for the investor relations section, most importantly for the debt section and for the responsible investment section. And this is also being shown in the research that we do of the plans of the web managers. It's also interesting to see how many of you that are unsatisfied or have things that you would like to change with the way that your strategy and actions for social media are set in the company. And 60% shows that you are unsatisfied, and 67% will actually prioritize working with social media over other activities during this year. And this also is correlated by the data on how you spend your money, where the money will be increased in 21% for social media. These are typically the type of data and questions that we get from the surveys, and the Web Manager Survey is part of our support of open research, which we will publish free of charge on our website and through social media. We do a couple of different types of research every year. Some of them are part of the web ranking, which is only available through the web ranking report, and some will be published as open research, as this one will be within shortly. There will be lots of more data in that as well. Some of you have participated and answered the survey and will get a pre-delivery of the report. Okay, the next survey that we conduct is one of the major undertakings that we have. It is the Capital Market Survey, and it's it was the starting point when we started Webranking in '96 to research the target groups of investors and the capital markets, and then tell the companies what is important for them to have on the website. This is one of the key pillars of the web ranking research, which we put a lot of emphasis on. And as you know, these types of persons around the world is very hard to get attention from, especially if it's only, if I'd say so, a question of what would you like to see on a website and how do you behave, what do you do when you research a company. So we're quite glad that we get almost 300 responses from these types of persons around Europe, Asia, North America, and South America. The answers are divided into business journalists, institutional investors, and also the sell side and buy side brokers. If we just do a top list of things that they would like to see on your website, it is the market share and competitor statistics. It is highly sought for and something that everybody should have on the website, because that's one of the key things they are looking for. Obviously, also they're looking for the financial presentations and the latest financial report in PDF and in online format. A lot of companies do this quite well when we look at the web ranking data and the rankings. The one thing I would say that people are not as good as presenting, it's the financial targets and achievements. Although that is actually one of the key things you should have on the website if you look at what your target groups are looking for. This top list has been more or less the same the last couple of years if you look at the top 5 information, but there's a lot of things going on behind the scenes in terms of how people would like to get the data and the details of data that they require to be satisfied, especially when you look at market share, you look at financial targets, and also when you look at the business operations, which is not just a text about what type of businesses you have, but the detailed financial data, key figures, etc. going on and explaining the business that you operate in. We also ask them how they behave and how they use different types of tools. And this is a small highlight from this, where we have asked them how they access the corporate website. Obviously, people use the computers and they do a lot of things on their mobile phones, but we can see that 30% of them says that they are using an iPad or a tablet to access the corporate website and do research of the companies that they are working on. It's not only accessing the website, but also research in other types of media. 31% says that they're using smartphones, and that is rising. A lot of people also say that they have more than one phone and one tablet and one computer. So if we look at these target group specifics, they are very tech savvy in the way that they use different tools to access and to get data that they need to do the job. Interesting enough, if we look at these figures and how people behave, you would imagine that it would be important for all companies to have websites that work very well for smartphones, tablets, etc., which they do not. Earlier this year, we made a small study. It's not part of this study or any other study, but just a small research project where we looked at the top 100 websites in Europe, and that is the top 100 websites for the companies, the European top 100 sized companies, large, based on the FTSE 500 list. And we looked at their websites and made a judgment of if their website are using responsive design, which means that they would work well on a smartphone, on a tablet, or any type of mobile device, as well as working well on your computer. And only 1 out of the European top 100 companies by market cap is actually having a website that works well for these target groups. So that's a clear area of focus and improvement that should be on the mindsets of any company today. All of these data which is quite extensive from the Capital Market Survey, is part of the web ranking report, where you can follow the different questions and how they correspond and correlate to different areas of content on your website. So this is just a small teaser for that. Some of the sound bites that we get, because we interview people and we also ask open text questions to these, when we ask them what would you like the companies to be better at and what would you like them to have on their websites. And one of just a couple of few of these sound bites would be, one of them would like to have a live chat to provide info as required by the user, i.e. when you come to the website, they want to be able to talk to someone. And if we compare this requirement with how a lot of corporate websites today look, which is very unpersonal, it's very hard to find contact information even. And on the other side, you have the target group who would like to actually communicate live with the company. So there's a big disconnect between the companies and the target groups in this one, which this one indicates. There's also a discontent with how well the websites work, the navigation. It's hard to find the information. The navigation clearly needs to be improved. And this is also seen in the way that people judge your websites in terms of when they start to navigate using iPads. It is getting increasingly hard to find the information if the navigation and the website has not been adapted. Some of the journalists and some of the investors and analysts, they recognize that there's a lot of data available on the websites, but it's very hard to find. It's put in places which have no relevance for the target group, and it is sometimes not clear if this is all the information that is presented or if there is more information somewhere else. So this is an area where there needs to be a work done in making sure that the content is being presented in a very clear way. Again, this is a question or request for other types of content or other means of accessing content. Today, the trend is going very fast towards video communication and more visual communication using infographics, and the rule of YouTube time is that you need to have things in video. This has not really transformed into how corporate websites and the corporate communication is being conducted. Some companies are using it more than others, but in general, the use of video and use of visual communication is very limited. And again, these types of people, they are used to looking at video conferences, they're used to following other companies which are more from a marketing perspective, which use video quite a lot more. And it's also clear that the target group really wants to see how the CEO and the CFO, etc., presents the company and makes the pitch for the company in terms of what do they do, why are they better than the other ones with the competition, i.e. the investor proposition needs to be communicated using the key management of the company. And also, one of the things that very often come up is that the search function is really, really lousy on a lot of websites. And people are used to being able to search. They're used to Google type of search. You type in the search and you quickly get an answer which is relevant to the questions that you have. And this is very much not true on a lot of the corporate websites. Again, more of this is available in the reports if you have them. And the third survey that we do before starting to look at the criteria is the career survey, where we look at how young professionals and people that are looking for a new job is behaving and how they look for information and what they expect from your company website to when they visit it. These types of researches we do primarily through social networks groups, typically like LinkedIn or Facebook or similar. It gives us a very good information about the demographics of the people that are answering, which is good. We can see that we have a median age of 25 to 34. We have an education level of bachelor or higher, which would be the master's degree, the PhD, etc., of 89%, which means that the group that we have answers from is a typical group that people and companies would like to target with their career and employer branding communications. 79% of the people that we have surveyed, which is the 160 responses we have, they said that they use the corporate website as a source when looking for job opportunities and researching the company before they are actually applying. So the corporate website, although we have a lot of websites focused on vacancies like monster.com, etc., the corporate website is important as a communication tool for culture, how it is to work at the company, and the opportunities and that are available in the company, and the culture, of course, of the company. We also ask them for what they do and how they research the company in general, and if they use social media for that. 44% actively look for information about the company in social media. And we've divided this into two different areas, which is the information searching, basically general information, who is working there, do I know someone in the company, what are the company's main products, etc. And in that area, we see that LinkedIn is the by far largest social media network and most important, and Wikipedia as a source of facts is number 2. Looking at job opportunities, which is basically the vacancies that you present on the website, there is a slight difference in the social media networks that are being important. Again, LinkedIn is showing a very strong first position in this. This is where people would like to see and where they expect to see vacancies and opportunities rather than on Facebook. Even with 21% is rather high, I think, because of the type of data that you have in Facebook being a more personal-oriented social network. But you also see Twitter coming up as number 3. So you would expect to see a Twitter feed of different vacancies being presented so that people can retweet and reshare them. But again, LinkedIn is the most important social network for information searching and for job opportunities. Again, this is part of the KWD Webranking report, and all of the data is shared through that because this affects the way that we judge and rank the companies and the criteria that we create for this. So that are part of the background research sorry, that we do every year and that we've done this year as well. All of this has led to a change in the criteria. The criteria is the long list of things that we look at on your website and all the measurement points that we look at and put a score on for your website. And based on the research, we have decided to make a slightly larger change than we usually do. Every year we change somewhere between 15 and 20% of the criteria because of changes in time, changes in requirements from the target groups. Sometimes a criteria is being obsolete because basically all of the companies are fulfilling the criteria. So it's no point in measuring something that everybody scores 100% on. All of that goes into this. But when we look at the way that people behave today and the requirements they have of the websites, we thought it was time to do a slightly larger update to the criteria. So, what have we done and why do we do this? Well, first of all, the major change that we do is related to social media. The social media has become much more important for the distribution of messages and content. And as we can see in our research, it has also become much more important for information searching and finding information, and also for engagement with the company, where people would like to share with the company, or they would like to apply for a job, or they're looking for data about the company performance, and how you do business. So social media has become important in that aspect as well, and we need to recognize that in a good way, and that makes sense for the companies to actually act on. And to be able to do that, we have moved from a approach where we have measured if you have links to different social media services to measuring and identifying these are the most important social media networks for different types of content and what type of content and activities you need to have in that specific social media channel. So that's a big change in the way that we look at the criteria. So from one perspective, you could say that we now have each criteria is measured in 3 different ways. Also, it's important to point out that all of the criteria that we have and the way that we put the weighting and the importance of them, that is based on the research that we do of the target groups. It is not something that just we think is important, or it's something that we see some of the best companies are doing, but we are also measuring if that is relevant for the different target groups, and that makes them a high score or giving them a higher weight in the scoring. So how much do we change? Well, this year about 30% of the criteria are new. It's sometimes hard to say if they're new or if they're a tweak of an earlier version of the criteria, but in general, we've done a quite big change to this. We've also removed about 10%, and then we have about the 60% is about the same, although they have a new criteria weight to them, of course. Social media measurement, as I said, is changed from we are there to measure more deep integration and activity on the website and in social media. So we've had about 4 to 5 social media measurement points or criteria in earlier versions of KWD Webranking, and it now moves to 48 measurement points in social media. And also important that we have moved to a more context-based measurement. So when we look at this, and we also, as you know, some of you at least know, we measure on the website, and we also measure in search, would be Google search. So we measure on the website, we measure in search, in the major search engine, and we measure in social media. So for each content criteria, if it's relevant to have that on social media, we will measure that, and the same goes for search. The criteria is divided this year into 10 sections. It is the start page, where we measure what type of content you should have on the start page. The start page could either be the start page of the corporate website or the IR start page, or the start pages that are relevant. It is important because sometimes you have a .com website which is really the portal for the entire company, and is not only focused on the target groups that we are looking to in KWD Webranking. So we are looking at those 2 levels to be able to give a good measurement of that. We have the About Us section, which is the presentation of the company and the corporate profile. We have the press section or the media section. The financial reporting is about how you do your reporting, the quarterly reports, the CSR report, all of that goes into that. We have the share, which is information about your stock and your key figures about your equity being traded. Of course, the investor relations, it keeps all of the other types of content which is related to investor relations, which is actually quite a lot. And as you can see, if you followed the Webranking a couple of years, we have changed the structure of the criteria slightly and made the investor relations section, we have broken it up into the financial reporting, the share, and the IR section. Corporate governance is a very important section, of course, how the company is governed. Corporate responsibility, increasingly important as our target groups, regardless of which they are, an investor, someone looking for a job, or whatever it is, is interested in how the company is run and if you're doing it in a proper way. And of course, the career section, which is usually the most visited in terms of visits to a corporate website when we look at statistics. And the last one is where we start to look at the functions that you have on the website and the stakeholder dialogue functions for the website. And again, for each criteria scoring, it can be scored on the website, in the search engine, or in social media if it's relevant. We do not have measurement points on all criteria in social media because it doesn't really make sense for that type of content to be there. Even though we have 100 criteria, we have lots of more measurement points. Today, for this year, it is 323 different things that we measure on the website, and we group it into those 100 criteria in those 10 sections. 20% of the measurement points, I'm not saying it is the same amount of the total score, but 20% of the measurement points is related to channels outside of the corporate website. So even if it is important with social media and search, it is, of course, the most important thing to have the content on your corporate website, because that's the starting point for your communication. And that's the reference point for everything that you do in digital media when it comes to corporate communications. We have also updated the investor relations criteria based on a much more detailed level if we look at all the criteria. And that means that for a lot of the criteria, they are not new, but we are asking for more information to get a full score. We're also updating the information requested for depth information and for the share information. The share information is interesting to look at the company's trading and how you are being traded in different trading platforms. Even if you're listed in just one stock exchange or maybe 2 or 3, there's a lot of information going on, or a lot of trades going on outside of that in the electronic trading platforms, and that is something that should be reflected in the share information section. So that's also something that we're starting to look at. The media section is mainly updated in how the content and the integration is handled. The content that we have been looking at for the last couple of years is a good representation of the things that is needed. But the implementation on the corporate website is not in line with the expectations of the target groups. They are expecting more video. They are expecting to find out more about where you are presenting, when is the last presentation by the CEO, and I would like to be able to watch it or download it or watch the presentation in an easy way. And I would like to be able to find it either on the website or in social media. So in general, we would say that the main changes to this is how deep and how detailed we are measuring this. And that is very much related to the social media criteria as well. So that's the criteria update. We will not go into the exact criteria we're using as usually, and we will not go into all of the scoring definitions. That is available in the report. And we have a full disclosure of everything from the background research to the scoring criteria and to how you and your peer groups is scoring in the different reports. We have also started to look at which companies will be included this year. First of all, the way that we select companies to be included in the public lists that we are publishing is based on market cap. We start every year with the 100 largest companies in the world and the 500 largest companies in Europe. We use the Financial Times list of 500 largest companies. And for select markets, we also add companies to create more extensive country lists. We don't do this in every country, but in some, there's a history of ranking more companies, and we have a more, or I would say a larger stock exchange, which makes it relevant to look at the companies that are outside of the European top 500 based on market cap. We also provide for companies outside of the public lists on-demand reports and rankings to be able to compare and share the information of their website and work with the data to improve their website, because the data that we have is so much related to the expectations of the target groups. It makes very much sense. Those companies are not published as part of the public list that we also share with media. And again, I want to reinforce that we do not cherry pick the different companies to be included in this. We use strictly market cap. So the Global 100, the top list of that will be selected in Q4. And mainly that's because we published the list in January 2013 for this. So we use a list in Q4 to do that, to make it as relevant as possible. The Europe 500, we would have hoped that Financial Times had published the list by today, which they haven't. So we cannot publish the total list of that. We have a pretty good idea, of course. It's the different, the top 500 is usually, normally there's at the bottom of the list, there's some changing going on, but we can make a pretty good judgment already today which companies will be included. And if you look at the Europe 500 of last year, you will have a pretty good idea of who is included in that. We also do extensive ranking lists in Middle East, and we will publish those selected companies in September. The ranking is slightly later in timing for that area, but we release the data nevertheless just before Christmas. We also introduced something that is new, which is the ICB super sectors. I will go into the sectors in just a little bit, but as you can see, when we do the Europe 500 and we do the country list, we end up with around 40 countries that we publish public lists for. And it is lists for Europe, it is for Middle East, and there's also some Asian countries and Asian areas that go into this. When it comes to industry classification, there's two things to this. One of them is that we have had a industry classification in KWD Webranking, which has been based on different types of industry classifications. This year we have selected to go with the ICB classification, which is usually based by New York Stock Exchange, NASDAQ, and the Dow Jones companies. There are two competing sector classifications, the ICB and the GICS coding. But we have selected to use the ICB with their super sectors, which is 19, to do industry classification of all companies, and also to publish individual top lists of each sector. So there will be a top list for oil and gas, one for chemicals, one for basic resources, one for construction and materials, and so on. This will, of course, be part of the benchmark report, which I would like to point out also that there is a possibility to do your selected peer groups. So it's not only in those reports that you compare with the ICB sector, which you get sort of part of the package, but also you have the possibility to select your own peer group, because sometimes the sectors do not make sense when you're looking at your own website and how you would like to be benchmarked internally. So we have the option of doing both of those two types. But again, the new thing is that we're using the ICB, which is a third-party classification, and we also will publish industrial top lists, which we think is very important and interesting to look at, more so sometimes than the country lists. Okay, and the last thing I would like to share with you is the different types of reports that we have available. They are very much similar to the ones that we've had earlier years, but nevertheless, it's important or interesting to share the information that you get in the different reports. The starting point is the company report, which is the sort of entry-level report, which you get all the data. You get all the data from all our research. You get the best practice examples, which is about 300. We usually select during the ranking process of different companies solving different communication needs very, very good. So for instance, for each criteria, you could find inspiring examples for how other companies have created solutions for communicating that criteria. It's also, of course, the evaluation of your website. The next level is the benchmark report, which also includes the industry benchmark, where you can compare it with your selected peers and your industry. Last year, we introduced something new, which is the Benchmark Plus report. And compared with the other ones, this provides a much larger value because we take the data, we do the evaluation of your website according to the criteria. We also do the benchmark compared with the industry and with your peer group. But we're looking at other things that we usually do not include in the web ranking report, because in the first two reports, everything is based on substantiated data, and it is a quantitative analysis that's being made. And it's based on the general requirements of your website. That means that we're not looking at user experience, we're not looking at design or aesthetics, we're not looking at how well the actual website works for you. And that is what we include in the Benchmark Plus. We take it one step further, and we analyze and look at the website and make a full 360 evaluation of how the website works for you. And then we do a presentation either on location or by video conference. So that was a new version that we included last year. And the last one, which is really targeted at the companies that are not part of the list. That means the outside of the 900 or so companies that we are ranking by default by market cap. And that's, of course, on request that we do that. The same type of data in background research, the same best practice examples. We use the same criteria, if applicable. If it's an unlisted company, some of the criteria, of course, is not applicable, but the evaluation of the website, and then depending on discussions, we do a lot of more qualitative comparison and extended review. Okay. That actually concludes the update that we have for you at this point. The key takeaways would be the timing. We start now. We will end August 17. We will do a major overhaul of the criteria, which will affect the way that we rank, mainly social media, but also the depth of the detail of the criteria has been improved quite extensively. And all of the data will be published in the period of somewhere between October and Christmas this year, with the Global 100 being the late list being published in January, early February next year. As far as I can see, I haven't received any more questions through the chat. So thank you for listening in. And sorry, here's to start scanning. Right. No, we're not using a alphabetical order for the scanning. It is the team that does the ranking is a team in Stockholm. We have a team in Italy, and we also have a team in London and Portugal and Dubai. And we do rankings top down, bottom up, and also divide it between them. So it's not really a alphabetical order for that. Second question here is the use of LinkedIn is mainly connected with HR research. It is connected strongly with the career survey, but we also include, of course, LinkedIn in the survey of how analysts, journalists, etc. find information. And even if we haven't included it in this presentation, we have data and on how they use it and for what type of content it is relevant for that specific type of target group, which is available in the reports, of course. Okay, I think here's some more questions. We have a question about depth information. Yes, more information. We are asking for more detailed information compared to earlier. If we look at the different criteria, we're looking for specific pieces of information, which we have found in our research is requested by these target groups. So that I'm not able to disclose which those types of details of content is, because we will of course look at all the companies using the same criteria. Some companies already have that information and some will not have it yet. But that's the type of approach we apply for that. We also have a question if there will be a global worldwide ranking. The Global 100 is a global worldwide ranking, which means we include companies from Asia, like Korea, from Japan, based on market cap, as well as the US. So there's a number of US companies, Canadian companies, there's some in South America, and some throughout the world. So it's the Global 100, but not a large-scale global ranking right now. Other social media, we're looking at the social media that is relevant for the different target groups based on what they use. Some of them include, of course, SlideShare and Twitter, Facebook, LinkedIn, Wikipedia. The total list of things we look at is only available in the report. Next question is the new industry classification puts the companies in comparison with more companies as compared with the former analysis. Sometimes yes, and sometimes no. Some industries are smaller than before. Let's see. Will there be? Is a very specific question here about social media. Is Google Plus and SlideShare in the criteria? Some are, yes, absolutely. We have a question from Stockholm if there will be new criteria in the CSR section. There will be new measurement points in the CSR section, that's for sure. There's a question here from also from Italy about if we review the websites by browsing via iPads and tablets or smartphones. Yes, we do that as part of the research as a quick test, yes. We will from all the questions that you have, we will collect all that and we will publish the answers to them also on the website for everybody to read. And there's a question here, I think, from Italy about which is the company in the Global Europe 100 that uses responsive design. If I remember correctly, it was Shell, Royal Dutch Shell, who has a at least partly responsive design website. And I think if that concludes the questions, if you don't have any more questions. A lot from our friend Marco in Italy, who asked who will win the championship. That is, we don't actually know that yet. We will know in August 17. We will know that. but we will not let you know until October. Oh, you mean football? Even better. The football championship will be. I abstain. I will refrain from answering that right now. I think, especially in view of Sweden's dismal performance last night. Anything else you would like to ask at this moment? If not, I'd like to thank you for spending the time with us. And if you have any questions, you're very welcome to email me or send a tweet or contact me through any other means, and we will for sure get back to you very quickly. Thank you very much.